In this Kotlin on Android development tutorial, we're going to show you how to download and display an image on your device using the Picasso library. Welcome to Mobile Application Tutorials. My name's Nigel. Okay, this is the first of a new episode where we show you how to download and display images using the third-party libraries. And in this tutorial, we're going to start off with Picasso. If you look at my website here, and you do need to sign up for the free membership, you do have access to this documentation. So I'm just going to basically go through the tutorial as listed in this documentation, and I'll probably be maybe copying and pasting some of these details such as the URL address, because I can't remember URL addresses. Anyway, we'll make a start. So the first thing we need to do is to create an Android application. So I'll move across to my Android Studio here. Okay, and so we're going to start a new Android Studio project. And I'm just going to call this is going to be a generic name because we're just going to make the changes on the same application for the other third-party image libraries. So I'll just call this, I've forgotten the name of what to call this. I'll just call this HTTP image downloader. I should always think of the names I'm going to call these applications before I start this tutorial. And note, you will need to include Kotlin support. You can follow this on Java if you want to, but this is all about Kotlin on Android. We'll select next. Okay, I did notice that some of my tutorials I was using the very latest API here, so I'm switching down to Lollipop so we can get 71% of devices. Our application will install on 71.3% of devices. I do go right up to the latest now, but I do need to install that on my phone, but I'm currently running 8.0 on my device. So I'll select next. I'm going to select an empty activity. I don't want any additional code in there. And we can just keep the default name here as main activity and select finish. And just wait for that to build. Okay, initial application's now built. Right, the very first thing I need to do is I'm going to add internet permission because we are downloading these images from the internet. So you need to go into your Android manifest file. Just in here, we'll just add users permission, internet, close that tag. Right, the next step is we need to go into our layout file. So I'm just going to select app, resources, res, layout. Here's our default layout file here. Okay, I'm just going to, we'll close this tab. I'm just going to select the design tab here just to work on our layout. First thing we can do is delete hello world because we won't be using it. Okay, right, I'm going to make a start here. I'm just going to select button first. So we're just going to have a button called download for downloading the images. And I'm just going to place it somewhere here. I'll just keep the default as button. Both of these you can't see very clearly, but both of these are set as wrap content, so that's okay for me. I do want to change the text here, so I'm just going to do that now. Select add a new resource, add a new string value. So I don't call this button text, and the resource will be in uppercase. Download. Okay, I think that looks okay to me. Right, I am going to add a chronometer. So when you start the application, I just want a time to see how long it takes to display the image. You may or may not find that useful. So I'm just going to do a search in the layout here for chronometer. Here it is here. And now I'm going to drag it down, and I'm just going to sort of sitting in the left hand corner here. I don't know, I'm just going to call it Chronometer, and wrap content, and I'm just going to change the text appearance here a little bit to something a little bit larger. Yeah, that's okay. I think I'll reposition this a little bit. Now there's just one more thing I need to add here, and that's going to be an image view. So select images, remove the search filter, select image view there. I'm just going to put it in the left hand corner there. Once the default color, I'm just going to set that as transparent. And I'm happy with this location here. Notice it's in the very corner. That doesn't matter. We're going to actually be doing the resizing of this in the code itself. Okay, and wrap content. That's good for me. And I'll just keep the default name here, the ID name, as ImageView. Right, let's go back into our text tab and have a look at this. And yes, we've got some errors here because I've left something out. So let's go back to the design tab. Now that I've done this, I can now infer my constraints. Okay, it has done a bit of positioning here for my image view. I do actually like it in the left hand corner there, but I am happy with the button and the chronometer views. Okay, I've now got it in the left hand corner there. Let's go back to the text. Okay, that's good enough for the purposes of what I wanted to use here now. Now we'll go into the actual main activity and start the coding. And the first thing I want to do is just to add a value for the address of where our image lives that we want to download. So if we go back to my website, you can put any URL you want in here. I'll just scroll down here. Right, I'm just going to use this value here. I might as well copy the whole lot there. It's just an image, but as I said, you can put any image you want. So we'll go back to the Android Studio. And I'll just paste that in here. So that's the URL. So all of this episode and following episodes are going to use the same image just for consistency. Okay, we'll start some coding now. You notice that we set up a chronometer. So we'll set up a function to start the chronometer and reset it every time it needs to be called. So I'll just make this private function, and I'll just call this start chronometer. So closing braces there. So the first thing I want to do is just reset the chronometer. So I can just call chronometer. It's the base, and set that to the system clock. Elapsed real time. Now we can start the chronometer just by calling the start. That's all we need to do for that function. Start chronometer. Right, the next function is going to be setting the image view size. If we just go back to our main activity here, we'll go to the design text here. We're just setting the wrap content there. It's got no real dimensions. So what we're going to do now is set some dimensions for that. And those dimensions are going to be based on the display width of your device. So again, new function, private function. I'm just going to call this set image view dimensions. And first thing I want to have here is an aspect ratio, because that's what we're going to use for our little basic algorithm for setting the height. So I'll just call it aspect ratio. And I'm just going to use a standard aspect ratio because I know that this particular image matches that of 3 to 2, and that is a standard aspect ratio. So I'm just going to call 3, and we need to set the extension property here to float. or else we will sort of, yeah, just to get that extra value here for our aspect ratio. And it's going to be divided by 2 to float. That's fine. So aspect ratio is going to have the property of a float because that's what's been inferred from this calculation. Okay, now I'm going to create a new value here called screen dimensions to actually represent our screen dimensions. And it's going to be of the type point. Right, now I need to set some values for aspect ratio, and I'm going to get that off the window manager. So I can just call window manager, which in Java land is get window manager. And we'll call get default display, get size, and this is where we can pass in our screen dimensions here. Okay, now I can set up my values for my image view width and height. So we'll start off with image view width first. So I'll create a variable called image view width. And this is going to be screen dimensions, the value x, and now we'll have to calculate image view height, and that's going to be, I'm going to put some braces in here because we are going to sort of convert its type to an int, which is what we need. So we'll call screen dimensions again, it's going to be x, and now we're going to put in an aspect ratio to get our height. And this value return is going to be a float, so we need to convert it to an int just by doing this in Kotlin. Nice. Okay, so now we've got image view width and height. We're going to set that to our image view. To do that, we need to set up create a constraint layout parameters for that, and then pass those layout parameters into our image view. The reason we're using constraint layout is because our layout is a constraint layout. Makes sense, doesn't it? Right, okay, so now I'm just going to create another value here for parameters to represent the layout parameters. That's equals the constraint layout. We'll call layouts parameters here. So we're going to create this object, and it takes a width and a height, which we've worked out to be our image view width and an image view height. And now it's just a matter of passing that into our image view. And image view's got layout parameters there, and we can just set that with our parameters. Okay, so that's now been done. So we can now call those from inside our onCreate here. So first thing we need to do is put it on, set a on-click listener for our button. So we'll call our button and set on-click listener. Use the Kotlin implementation's a bit easier. Okay, so we're actually inside our on-click listener here. So first thing I want to do is start the chronometer. And if we're showing a display, I just want to reset that display or make it transparent. So I'll call the image view, set image resource, and we're going to set it with a transparent value here. Color, and finally it's a matter of setting our image dimensions. Okay, I just want to pause here because this code's all generic. This code is going to remain the same for when we use whatever library, whether it's Picasso or Glide or Volley or OK HTTP, or the last one where we actually set the lower called API, the HTTP URL connection API from Android itself. So this code's all going to remain the same. So I am going to put a git tag on this and make sure that for the following tutorials you can just pull down this code just to start the specific part of whatever library you want to use. I just thought I'd make a point about that. Now we can set up Picasso to download the image. If we go back to my website here, I do provide some information on how to get the build.gradle Glide Picasso dependency. I just hope I haven't been saying Glide throughout this tutorial because we are doing Picasso. glide comes next. So I'm just going to copy and paste this dependency, go back into my Android project, and we didn't need to go into our build.gradle file here, paste in that dependency, and you will need to sync now and wait for that to complete. That's now complete, so we'll go back into our main activity here, and we'll start the implementation of the Picasso download. So we'll create a new function for that, and I'll call the name load image using Picasso. I do want to keep this name quite generic. We'll just change the actual library name here. So Picasso. Check the spelling there, it looks okay. Okay, it's just a matter of we actually call the name Picasso. And it wants the context with first, so we'll just use the activity context with this. And now the load URL. So we did specify a URL up here called image URL. We do need to pass that into the URL format there. So I'm just calling pass, and then it's the image URL. Okay, the next step here is I'm just going to call the resize here, because what this will do is this will optimize the size of our image. This image is over 6 megabytes, so we don't need that size consuming all that important memory in your device. So we are going to get Picasso to resize the image based on our image view. So basically we can just call our image view. We can call the layout parameters here, and the width, which is what we just set before, and we'll do the same thing for the height as well. Okay, so we've now resized it. Now we can just load the actual bitmap into the image view, and Kotlin, they use this implementation into here. So it's just an image view here, but what I want to do here is just to add a callback to be notified of when the image has completed, and then I'll know to turn off my chronometer. So in Kotlin notation, we're going to actually set up an object to represent this callback, which is square up Picasso callback. And we will need to add some braces there. Okay, so we've got the callback there. I do need to implement two methods here. One will be on success, and I'd add the other one here as well on error. We'll do the on error first, so I'll just display a toast saying something's gone wrong, we couldn't download your image. So let's put in a toast for that. Could not download image, and set the time for the toast, length short, and we do need to show the toast. We are seeing an error here because we can't use our activity context. We are going to need to call the application context to display this toast. Okay, and let's set up on success, and all we want to do here is just to stop the chronometer. Okay, and using a callback when the image was downloaded and displayed was a good way to do that. Okay, so that is this load image Picasso completed. Right, moving on to we just need to call that now. So call load images using Picasso. And before we actually run this, embarrassingly, I've spotted a little bug here. The aspect ratio is around the wrong way, so we do need to reverse the position of our variables here. Cool. And 3 to float. Okay, so the aspect ratio should be set up there, so it's a bit of a mathematical faux pas by me. So you will need to double check that, or else you're going to have a very tall, strange aspect ratio photo, but it should display. Anyway, so we'll run that. Okay, the application's now started, so I'm going to select download. Wait for that to complete. Okay, download's completed and the timer has stopped, so we've successfully downloaded and displayed an image using the Picasso library. And that concludes this tutorial. If you want to get notified of the remainder of the episodes I'm working on this, or any of the other many of tutorials that I'm working on, don't forget to click on that subscribe button. If you're not a member of the free YouTube membership plan on my website, and you want to get hold of this documentation, you can sign up that for free. There is a card and a description link in the content description on how to sign up. It is free. If you do want to get hold of all the episodes straight away, those are available on the professional plan, and all the videos are ad-free, and they include additional documentation and videos on how to download the source from GitHub, videos describing that. The professional plan is $10 a month. And thank you for taking the time for watching this video. Bye for now.